excited. So let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Mind to Lead podcast. Very excited and honored because today I'm sat down with an incredible woman, Sabrina Woodworth. Sabrina is a career coach, author and founder of Work Lessons 101. Sabrina, amazing to have you on the Mind to Lead podcast today.
Thank you. I'm wonderful. I can't wait to talk.
Yeah, well, I thought, look, right now there's a lot of, unfortunately, people who are being made redundant, people who are looking to change careers. So I thought, what better person to get on than yourself? Because this is what you do, this is what you speak about every single day. So before we get into the nuts and bolts and the steps that people should be taking and how they should be thinking right now, could you just give a little bit of an introduction for the people who perhaps don't know who you are? So who is Sabrina and what's your journey been so far?
So I've had a long journey, but to obviously do it quickly, I come from the corporate environment. So I still work in the corporate Fortune 500 world, have for the last 14 and a half years. So that has kind of led me to where I am today, which is about a year ago, I decided to start a company called Work Lessons 101, which actually started as a nonprofit. It started as an educational teaching type of business that I've now rolled into because to be able to work with educational institutes, it's actually a lot harder to break the door. So I actually decided to roll out a career services and career coaching programs so I can actually work with students, young professionals, aspiring professionals, to work on their career development plan and a strategy. So basically goal setting in that type of environment so they can be successful in their career, because I felt the education system, and I don't want to be too hard on the education system because I truly want to work with the education systems, but I found there was quite a large gap from the moment you graduate university to really launching a successful career, that they didn't have those kind of basic skills. For example, how to sell your credentials, how to write an effective resume. These are some of the basics. And then obviously into some of the more complex skills like reading a room, building an influential network, things that take time. And if you do it correctly from the beginning of the career, these will serve you for your course of your career. So I like to build long lasting, strong careers by setting the foundation strong. So I work with the variations of age and professionals, but that's what I focus in, is to coach people on how to kind of reach their dreams and goals by breaking them down into steps, actionable, executable, sustainable methods so they will reach these goals. Because a lot of people I find almost get overwhelmed with the process and they potentially pick unrealistic goals, and then when they don't accomplish them they feel they fail, when in reality they haven't failed. They're actually along the journey, they're probably at the right point in their journey. They've actually just executed unrealistic goals because either they're comparing themselves to others, or they don't understand their missing skill gaps. And the younger they are, the more inexperienced they are in the field they've chosen, the more likely these things are to happen. And they're very normal, natural things to be happening. So that's kind of where I feel like there's a bit of a missing gap there between education and kind of launching a career. And that's kind of where I wanted to fill the void. And that's why I wrote my book. And that's why I'm really kind of targeting that niche, because I feel there is a bit of a gap in the industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, who knows what they want to do when they leave school? I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like literally, I all I knew is I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to have lots of experiences, and I ended up doing beauty and became like a skin therapist. And because I was like, well, I can take that anywhere. It's a trade that I can take all over the world. And I wanted to go and work on the cruise ships. And I ended up going to live in Greece and France, and it was an amazing couple of
That's cool.
years. Brought me to Australia, which I'm very thankful for. And then when I arrived, I thought, well, what's next? Because I feel like I've got everything I wanted to get out of that. And I was very lucky because I had all this experience of meeting people, and I had a level of confidence from travel that I transitioned careers quite easily into like beauty and skincare, and that sales into recruitment and IT, which was quite a transition. But I'd love to sort of take a step back now, because I think that this is where a lot of people get stuck, like you say, and they go to university and they try and get a job in their university degree, and they're like, no, I've got to stick with this. This is what I'm trained in. This is what I have, this is what my parents want me to do. So how should people, if they identified, what, this career isn't serving me anymore, perhaps this university degree isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life, where should they begin, and what sort of steps do you advise people to take?
The first thing I always want everyone to know, and just like you did, you traveled a lot in your career and then you eventually settled. And I think a lot of people have to understand that your values and maybe not so much your values, but your priorities change as you progress through your life. And
Mm.
so, for example, there's a lot of traveling in my career in the engineering construction world. I can travel through work all over the world, but I also have a 1-year-old son now. And the luxury of living in a hotel room, I can assure you, everyone's a little different, but a lot of those things can get tiresome and wear off. Their novelty wears off. And so, what you need to understand is what you potentially even want at the beginning of your career. You have to be open minded and flexible and adaptable enough to understand that maybe 5 years to 10 years down the road, it isn't what you want. And to face that reality when it happens and to never lie to yourself. So if you're literally 22 or 23, you just graduated, you're not sure, your degree is a great foundation to build a career off of, but it's still just a degree. Like you still need to gain experience, which is the best education of it all. So sometimes just starting is the advice I give to people, depending where they're at. You obviously want to start to feed a longer plan. So if you're really, really, really stuck and you really don't know what you want to do, I always do kind of a mindset exercise where I ask them where they want to be when they're 60, when they retire, 65,
Oh.
55, whatever age they want to roughly
Mm.
stop their career at, and just kind of be like, well, what do you want? What do you think that person's going to value over a 40-year career? Because your career is like 40 years, and I don't think a lot of people really grasp that when they're 22 years old, since their career is going to be double the age they're at right now. So they need to understand that it's a bit of a journey and that they don't need to have it figured out. So do you want to be happy when you're 60? Most people say yes. Do you want to What type of fulfillment do you want from your career? Do you want what do you define success as? Is success money, or have enough money to say have luxuries in your life, like not worrying about bills? But there's some people that really value money, and again, that's a value that could potentially change over time. I find a lot of people who value money are people who never had any money. So because they don't want the struggles their parents had, and that is a variable that's critical in a career. And what many people overlook is, do you need security in your career? And a lot of people don't ask themselves that. A lot of people have different risk profiles. Like some entrepreneurs risk it all. They don't care if they declare bankruptcy, they'll start again. And that is a different risk profile than someone who maybe saw their parents lose everything and don't want that because they know the repercussions of that. And they are like, no, I kind of want a career that pays a stable paycheck while I work, say, on a side gig, or while I work on my experience level to figure out what I want. You got to start somewhere. So sometimes starting is the biggest thing, because if you learn what you don't want, then that's an important lesson at 22. There'll come a point where you want to stop learning that and you want to figure out what you actually want. But if it's preventing you from starting, that's the dangerous part, because if you're not doing anything, you're not gaining any skills. I almost look at that as lost time. At least if you're traveling, like a lot of people take a gap year and travel, which is really obviously hard in today's circumstance with COVID. You learn a lot of who you are and what you like traveling. So it's by no means a gap year. A lot of parents say, "Oh, that's a waste of a year." It really isn't. It's a year of maturity. It's a year of discovering what you want, and it's also potentially a year to discover what country you want to live in, because not what you got brought up in may not be what you want. I have a lot of friends that have settled in Italy, and a lot more, I would say, more relaxing, laid back cultures, because that suits their needs. They don't like the hustle of the corporate world that North America kind of breeds a bit, and so that gap year of traveling was, last thing was wasted time. So my advice, if you're stuck, depending on the level of stuck, because sometimes kids are just, I shouldn't call it, young professionals are just stuck because they don't have any experience, and starting your career can be a really scary task. But it doesn't need to be scary. Find people that you kind of look up to, and these can be peer mentors, like people maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of you. It does not need to be a VP. Like a lot of the time, a vice president who's 20 years into their career, they might have actually kind of forgotten what it's like to be in your first couple of years. So the advice they actually give you might not actually be the most applicable and useful. A lot of the best advice are people maybe who you slightly look up to that are a bit older, that have started appear to be going down the route that you might want to appear. Ask them what their lessons learned are. What's the biggest thing they would tell themselves if they could go back 3 years and listen to their answers and really analyze their answers and see if you can almost copy and imitate their path to some degree, and obviously tweak it for yourself and your own values. But that's the best advice I would say, is look at the people a few years ahead of you that you kind of want to go into your industry. So like you want to be a business analyst, connect with people, network with people on LinkedIn, do virtual events that target that kind of industry, because having the older mentors are great to open career doors down the road for you, that you're going to need once you start to get some experience and you start to secure a couple promotions. That's the network that you definitely need to build, but you have time to build that network. What you need right now is those kind of immediate people to kind of like get your foot in the door and get you started, because once you get started, that confidence gets built, and then confidence builds on confidence, momentum builds off momentum, and then you start going, and that's when your plan and your career goals really start to form. When I first started my career, my first goal was to be a process lead. I was in the industry, I was a engineer in training. Obviously I wanted to get my PEng, and I wanted to be a lead. That was kind of my 10-year goal. I did it at year 6, and when I kind of did it earlier than planned, it kind of like skyrocketed me into these larger, bigger goals, which would have been highly unrealistic to have in my first year. Like you don't really know what it takes to be an executive in a big corporation, so you start to work around them and understand the commitment and the sacrifice that goes into doing those roles, because a title and money is great on paper, but a title and money never comes to you without sacrifice. There is no such thing as a free lunch. So I know a lot of people are like, well, I want, this office, this corner with like they work potentially 60 to 80-hour weeks. Do you want to be someone like that? And you might be someone that wants that, but you might not know that on day one. And I wouldn't be worried too much if you don't know about that, because you got lots of time to figure that out.
Yeah. That's such powerful advice for, I think, the younger generation coming through, finishing uni, sort of figuring out what they want in life. I think that's just so amazing. Fundamental, just begin and just go for it, because like you say, you learn through mistakes, you learn through others, and I think through shadowing people that are perhaps where you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years time, you'll quickly identify, is this what I want? Do I want to work 60 hours, or do I want to go and live in Italy with and have a bit of a relaxed life? So I think it's having as many experiences as you can while you're younger definitely helps, making sure that you are on the right career path. So that's amazing advice. And then let's talk about now then the people who are maybe middle-aged, because I read a stat the other day, an alarming stat in fact, that said 85% of people are unhappy in their job right now. And that almost just broke my heart, because I just thought, wow, like we spend, the majority of our lives at work. We should want to come to work every day and truly enjoy our work, right? It's where we spend most of our lifetime. So let's talk about those people who are like middle-aged, or halfway through their careers, or in the other end of their careers, and they identify, right, I'm not happy where I am, but they've got a mortgage, they've got a family, they've got all these things to think about. Maybe they want to go and start a business, or they want to completely go and change careers. Where should they begin? Like, any advice for those people who are like feeling that right now?
And 85% is alarming. I read more statistics around 50 and 60%. But given current circumstances and employers taking high advantage of the current circumstance, like overworking their people, not hiring people, getting them to work free overtime, you should be grateful to have a job, which is all crap, to be honest. Like, if you're a good employer, then an organization has an obligation to you. So if you're unhappy, okay, so you got to see glass is half full. Sometimes you need to look at the positive. So if you're not happy and you're not happy, that's a positive step in the right direction. You've identified there's a problem. The next step is not even to take action. You need to take action to address the problem, and that could be potentially starting to put a plan together. So if you got mortgage, you got bills. So obviously, if money's an issue, you need to know exactly what you need to bring into the house to ease your stress and anxiety. Because going for a dream job when you can't pay your bills is not glorious. And it's most of the time, I know the movies make it sound wonderful. It's not as stressful, and you're not going to be able to make the right decisions for your business if you're under that type of scrutiny. So I think that's the first thing you need to live fully in reality. And most people do. Unfortunately, most people live in the negative side of the reality where they think it's
Mm.
hopeless. And I think part of it is you need to, I say, take those actions to address the problem. You need to get super organized.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you need to know exactly what your budget is. You need to start laying out what type of experience you got. And a lot of experience mid career is extremely transferable. So, for example, I work in the engineering construction industry. I'm a project manager. So, I have a lot of leadership experience. I have a lot of scheduling and budgeting experience. So, the resource industry is struggling. So, there's a lot of people being laid off and being made redundant right now. But if you have some of those skills, the IT industry, for example, Amazon, when I say IT, like there's online shopping like the Amazons, but there's like warehouse management. Like there are so many other jobs behind these huge tech companies. So that's an industry that's booming right now. And they just opened, say, a small headquarters here in Vancouver. I'm going to use Amazon as an example because I sign up for all the job ads off LinkedIn. So if you are just thinking of a career change and you're kind of like dabbling, oh, maybe healthcare, maybe sign up on LinkedIn and get all the job ads. I literally get them every single day. And you're going to start to see the themes over a month of who's hiring and what they're asking for. So read these ads and the skills are going to start popping up. So let's use Amazon IT. They need program managers desperately at Amazon. There's a small portion in the qualifications that lists software, which, for example, I don't have. But all the other skills, leading large teams, working with clients, remote working, globalization. Like I've run projects that have 4 different offices on 4 different continents and team members. I have led schedules through all the software scheduling form. I've done big budgets. I've done man-hour estimates. All these qualifications that I check, 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 check. So these industries that are booming, there's a talent pool within these industry, and that they have already clinged to these. They've already hired these people. They are now offering training and development because they have a gap in the talent pool. So this is where the middle management people, the best education in the world is experience. You just need to learn to how to sell it. So the longer you read these ads and the more you start to check mark these qualifications, the more you know how to highlight them and the more you'll learn how to ghost the experience you don't have. And then if you have, say, a 1 to 3 month plan to move into the IT industry, QuickBooks is an accounting software that almost everyone asks for. It is a super easy software to learn off YouTube or to take a $50 course online. And then 3 days, 4 days of working with it in your job, you'll learn how to use. So then we'll put QuickBooks on that resume, self-learn it. So this is where you need to have a plan, and this is where you need to be super organized, because if you have young kids, you obviously a good chunk of your time's raising your kids. But you know what? The great thing about little kids is they go to bed early. So you have 1 or 2 hours every night. Obviously, don't burn yourself out. Pick sustainable methods. But maybe you need to suck it up and do an hour a day or a half an hour every day during the week and maybe 2 hours on the weekends to start learning these softwares, self teaching them, figure out where you can learn them for free, figure out what they cost to get in a structure, because sometimes usually when you pay for things, it quickens your process. Just like career
Mm.
coaching, a lot of the things I teach you can go learn in your career on your own. But if you grab me, you gain from my experience and I quicken the process. So usually paying online courses for software and stuff quickens your process. So if you have a tight timeline, you might have to start thinking about doing a financial investment too. If that's not an option for you, then again, you pick a plan, you get super organized. But the biggest thing is when you don't have a plan and you feel stuck, this is where the 85% statistic, I've seen it, I've witnessed it with my clients. It's a hopeless, helpless feeling, and it's no way to live life. And I'm trying not to be too optimistic here, because I do understand some of the circumstances that some people are going with just paying their medical bills in the States right now, and they have no insurance, no jobs. They pretty much got to kind of take whatever they can get. That's the mentality they're in. And while you might have to take a job today to pay your bills and make ends meet, you need to start thinking longer term. If you don't start having a plan and you don't start breaking these down day by day, and this 30 minutes each day, it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but 30 minutes each day over an entire year adds up to learning new skills. You will still be unhappy a year down the road, and that's the biggest crime of them all. So if you can break it down into a little bit of actionable steps, and I mean break it down to day, then week to week, and then to month, and then to year. And if you do that, if you make it the next goal for the next year to dedicate yourself to self improvement, 30 minutes every day, you'll be so much further ahead a year down the road. And you'll also be in control of your destiny. A lot of this helpless feeling comes from not feeling like you're in control. And that's what kills me sometimes about seeing with people, because like I want to help, and you're just like, oh, you have these hands and you have the internet and you
Yeah.
have so much, but it's your mentality, it's your mindset that you need to just like overcome. And I'm not talking, I know people are struggling right now, so I'm trying not to be too hard, but sometimes you do need someone just to call you out a bit. And you're like, are you that person that wants to just be a little bitter and vent and complain and do take no accountability and change and have nothing different down the year? Or do you want to be that person that, you're going to be different, you're going to be the exception, you're going to be the person that makes something of themselves in a year? And that's the person that I find is happiness. And you also, another variable, need to cut out the negative in your life, because I find when people dedicate themselves to self-improvement, there will always be people in their life that try to knock them down, that are too scared to go for it themselves. The quote, misery likes happiness. And you need to be really mindful of those people and who your true friends are and who truly has your back, because there will always be people that will be like, are you sure you want to learn that new software? Are you sure you want to move into IT? You know nothing about IT. IT. One of my clients, IT is a really male dominated industry. Are you really ready? Like, to say this to a female. And I'm like, for someone who's worked her whole career in a male dominated industry, there's amazing opportunities if you're, there, you got to have a hard skin, and you got to build some resilience, because it is hard. It's not easy, but it can be done. Absolutely. Have a major advantage if you know how to use it correctly, being a minority in an industry, because you bring a fresh look onto things. And so you just need to be very mindful during today's times when there's so much negativity that you don't get consumed by it.
Yeah. Wow. That, I hope people are actually taking notes, because if you are thinking of a career change right now, or you're out of work, this is absolutely transformational stuff. And you've touched on so much there that it's absolutely incredible. I think people will go back and listen to this. So you said basically the power of like just download all the jobs on LinkedIn, see the patterns. But I think what you said, what you touched on mindset there, because what people tend to do is they look at a job ad, and instead of focusing on the transferable skills that they'll have, they'll focus on that one thing. Oh, I don't have that, and it's like, no, but
Totally.
look at all this other stuff that you have. And then if you identify, okay, like you said, QuickBooks, that seems to be coming up a lot, right, I'll go and learn that. And it's taking action, and your future self will thank you for it. And it's getting out of that victim mentality, start taking radical responsibility, and just going for it, just taking the steps. Even if it's a small step, like you said, it could be 30 minutes of training, it could be registering for a course, it could be watching something on YouTube, it could be listening to a podcast, it could be reading a book, whatever it is. And surrounding yourself with other positive people who are also in that frame of mind is super powerful. So I just think, yeah, amazing, just great advice there. So let's say then somebody's done all of that, they've taken responsibility, they've identified the skills they need to work on, and they're super pumped, their mindset is in a good place, and they want to now start applying for jobs. What sort of a good approach now as we approach 2021? Because the market is going to be a little bit more crowded. There's going to be more people looking to take that career transition. There's going to be an influx of people applying for jobs. So how can you stand out? What are some things they can do on their CV? Should they be thinking about personal branding? What sort of things should people be thinking about as we move into 2021?
So as you're starting to get super organized and moving into a new direction and really starting to focus on the skill gaps you need to develop, one tiny little variable in that overall plan, and it's potentially the most important one of them all, is networking. And so everyone gets scared because a lot of people don't understand what networking actually is. All networking is building relationships. And it is not quantity that matters here, it is quality. So, you introverts are listening, do not be fearful of that. The great thing about social media is you can network. So, there's two ways, and I do both ways. I make people come to me and I go to them. So, to make people come to you, which I think is a lot more comfortable for a lot of people, that's where you can build that social media brand. So if you want to move into, so hey, I work in the engineering industry and I wanted to become an entrepreneur and I wanted to be a career coach. So which is completely an opposite. There's overlapping. I mentor day to day in my work, that there's definitely transferable skills there. But I started a brand on social media. I developed my own company and I just started posting content, and it got better over the year and a half. I've been doing it a year and a half daily now. And you should go back and look at this my first few weeks. Like, it's come a long way, and how I like do calls of action. So start studying some of your favorite influencers or content creators online and see what type of formula they kind of use. How do they sell? Like, do they like, and part of it, like, I wouldn't even worry about selling right now, because right now you're just trying to create a brand. So you're trying to move into a new industry. So you want to build credibility in this industry. So start posting on that content. Use the features section in LinkedIn on your LinkedIn profile. So that's one way to have people come to you in a network. Once you establish yourself enough, people reach out to you. They ask for your advice, they ask you to come, and that's where you do it. And then at the same time, you build that network in your niche. When you're a content creator, you get to know all the other big content creators. It just happens over time. And that's when you start to, I would never, everyone's like cold calling. No, like, you posting content and moving into this new spectrum gives you an in to ask for questions and just reach out to people and say, hello, I'm starting here, I love your content, I'm going to continue following it, but I thought because we have like-minded goals that we should connect. And that's it. That's like a 4 sentence email. Send it. Make it a daily habit to do that twice a day or something. Again, little steps over a long period of time makes a big change. And that's how you network online, because the best way to get a job is to get a referral. And you can have almost a bad resume with a good referral and get a job, whereas the other way, you star resume or a very highly effective resume if you're cold called in on a company. And that means you're just applying online. And if you're looking for work, you should be doing both. Don't rely on references, because sometimes people don't want to tell you to your face that they can't help you, but they say they're going to help you. So you don't ever put your eggs in all in one basket. You never ever do that. So you need an effective resume and an effective LinkedIn profile. People can go check out my LinkedIn profile. It's pretty good, to understand what I mean by a complete LinkedIn profile. And then effective writing, I also have a free resume guideline that you can download off my website. So just go to worklessons101.com and go to free guides. But the biggest one is effective resume is selling your credentials. So everyone puts responsibilities and duties. Oh, managed accounts for our clients. Well, that tells me nothing except that you managed accounts for your clients. But what if you say, I managed 100 client accounts using QuickBooks and produced 40 monthly reports? Okay, I have no idea if that sentence made any sense to anyone, but my whole point is that you're like quantifying it. You've also, and it's still one bullet in your resume, but you let your future employer know that you managed over 100 accounts, which is a lot, using the software that they're actually asking for in the ad. And then you've added another monthly report into it. So you've said a lot more than the four words you did that. So there you can turn, but everyone runs accounts in accounting. Well, yeah, that's a responsibility, but the effective resumes turns that responsibility into an accomplishment. An accomplishment allows an employer or an HR person who's reading the resume to quantify what you've done. So there's true accomplishments like, oh, got an award and recognized, got a bonus. Like, those are like the true ones, but the effective resumes, and you have your accomplishments right at the top of your I always do a skills and accomplishment section right at your resume, because I like to summarize the whole entire resume in the first half of the first page. Because if you can't hook them there, then they're not going to read the rest of the resume. And then your good details and your highlighted of your responsibilities through accomplishments writing is throughout the body of your resume. Most resumes are about 2 pages. New grads is 1 page. Don't use the stinking templates you get off Canva. Everyone uses these beautiful little templates they get off Canva. It's free. It looks beautiful. Unless you are literally handing that resume to a hiring manager or you're emailing them directly, if you're applying online, you need to do an ATS, which is an applicant tracking software approved template. Just Google it if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's basically basic old school. They're boring resumes, but resumes don't need to be flashy. If you're working in marketing in some some industries need a design graphic, but you need to be mindful of the ATS because it won't be read by the screening software. So like the big companies like Amazon, Facebook, they all use this screening software. So if you don't if your resume is not read effectively, it's just going to get tossed into the not look pile. And that's dangerous when you're applying online with another few hundred people. They bring in these scanning softwares because a human being just doesn't have the time to read all these resumes. So you want to be shortlisted so it gets read. So you need to play by these new rules, so to speak, even though the ATS has been around for a long time. So there's a few things. The best way to get a job to get a referral or to get an interview is to go through a referral. You need to build your network. You do this over time, and it doesn't have to be scary. It could be seriously one contact you're adding to LinkedIn a day. You need to just pick your sustainable method and then stick to it consistently, and you'll reach it. And then the next one is learn how to get that. If you do not know how to write an effective resume, seriously hire someone. It's a fee up front, but if they make sure that they offer, if you do pay for someone, that they like offer a Zoom call or something with you so they can walk you through what they did, so you can learn how they did your resume so you can continue to update it in the future. But a lot of people are like, they don't have any money, they don't invest, but they've been rejected for 4 months and they're not willing to do anything different. Listen to me, at least go look at my free guideline, and I can assure you, if you're not getting any interviews, you're not doing half the stuff that I'm telling you. Because the interview is another process. Like getting an interview is the first step, and then knocking the interview out the door is the next one. And then obviously handling the rejection that comes with the interview process is a different thing. And it's very hard. I had one client get 3 or 4 times get down to the last 2, and they went with someone else every time until she finally got her job. It's really a really, really tough process to go through. So you do need a thick skin. And if you're moving into a new industry, that is far more likely. It's not a problem. The concern when you move industries, guys, you just got to live in reality, is that if you're new to an industry, there will always be people more qualified. And given COVID, there's a lot of really qualified people on the streets. So big picture wise, if this is what you really want, you gotta keep going for it. But you just got to realize that you're still the new kid. And when you're the new kid, there's lots of slightly more qualified people, right? So new grads are having a hell of a time trying to get a job right now because the 3 to 4 year experienced people are out of work and they're settling for a new grad paycheck. So an employer is going to want to go with the 3 and 4 year experienced person versus the new grad because they cost the same amount of money, but one requires a lot less work. To the new grads, you just got to, again, just understand what's going on is the first step. This is not personal, and you got to keep going and keep trying. And yes, when the methods you're using are getting you nowhere, this is when you seek help.
Yeah, I think that's such powerful advice. And in fact, I had somebody reach out to me the other day. This was when COVID first hit, and they were somebody who just done their like marketing degree, and they just wrote me a beautiful LinkedIn message with some really just beautiful value, just some key pieces like, "Hey Georgie, I noticed this on your website, this, and this. I really hope this helps." Right now, we weren't hiring for a social media person at the time, but I remember thinking, what great initiative, right? If you are somebody who's out of work right now and you want to get in with a particular company and you notice something, wrong on their website, or, just maybe putting together some sort of value offering to do something for free, like it gets attention, right? And I think that maybe we need to have this a little bit of an out of box thinking right now, and not
You
expecting
need to
things to
hustle.
come
Yep.
to correct, right? And we do live in a new world, and I think that, you know, it's not scaring people. It's not going, oh, this is gonna be a really tough year. It's just accepting it, because once you accept something, you know, you're gonna have you'll be more aware, and you're gonna, when you're aware of something, you're gonna be more sort of like encouraged and motivated, and not get, you know, that whole down and defeated mentality when things don't go the way you want them to go. So I think it's thinking outside the box and customizing your resume, putting time into your resume, and making sure that you do have some form of routine to get in the right frame of mind, because the amount of people who jump on a Zoom call for an interview who haven't made any effort, who, you know, haven't sort of got themselves energetically in the right frame of mind. And I keep saying to people will feel that energy. You know, like
Yep.
they can feel it. So, you know, if you've just had
And
your fifth
employers can be
interview,
picky right now, so it's not the
correct,
time
right?
to.
So you take all this into consideration and think about, how can I keep mindset strong? How can I stand out online? And everything you just said then is just so powerful. So let's title off now. So they've got their CV, they've got they've nailed the interview, and maybe they have, you know, they've been rejected. What sort of advice do you give to people who are getting rejected? How can they bounce back? How can they keep their mindset strong even when they keep on hearing no?
Yeah, and this is why I say the reality of the situation, and why I keep, like, 'cause people are like, oh, I'm very aware of the reality of the situation. I was like,
Mm,
but are you, like, you're moving into, you have no, or like for new grads, you have no experience, and you're going up against people who are experienced. That this is not to be defeated. This is not personal. You didn't get the job because you're not good. You didn't get the job because they legitimately went for someone with 4 years. Like, it's harder to compete. So sometimes it is just a pure numbers game, and you got to keep going at it. And then the people who are mid-career, you know, they, "Oh, I got to take a job because I do it, but I really want to do this." And what you really want to do might not, you know, you may be a year away from getting moving. So fake it then. That job that you're going
mm,
for the next year plays a critical variable to get to that next goal. That's how you
mm,
sell it. That's how you get the energy to go into the interview. It's part of your plan. It's a critical
mm,
variable. It is going to fund your goal. That's your
mm,
day job. You don't obviously tell the employer that, but deep down, you just got to come off energetic, because if you don't get that day job, then you're not going to get the funds to do what you really want. So that job's actually very imperative and very important. And that's how you get through the day
mm,
to day of it, maybe too, because you may not like what you're doing day to day, but you know it's not permanent. And I think
mm,
that's, at least that's how I got through certain things in my career, is that it
mm,
paid. It's just like getting your degree. There will always be crappy courses that you gotta take to
mm,
get your degree, but the goal's the
mm.
degree. The goal is not to
Yeah.
enjoy that particularly useful, useless class. Like, I know every engineer needs to take an English class, right? Like, it's you just got to get through it. Like, you don't need to enjoy it, and
Mm,
it feeds a bigger plan. And I think there's an illusion sometimes out there that people think they need to enjoy everything they do. It's called work for a reason, not playtime. I'm
yeah.
thinking if you're enjoying yourself 70% of the time, that's pretty solid, because I hang out with a lot of entrepreneurs now. I married a business owner. And then my boyfriend before my husband was also a business owner. And what I learned with people, and I'm a business owner now, is there's shitty days being a business owner too. Like, oh my God.
100%. Yeah,
If you have
absolutely.
staff, uh,
Yeah.
like, one
Yeah.
of my friends runs a climbing gym, or he's retired now, but he did. And like, when a staff member just called in sick, he had to like give up his plans all the time to go cover that shift all the time. So
Mm,
like, and like, don't get me wrong, there's tons of wicked perks too, and that's what everyone always sees, but no one sees the sacrifice and the crappy unplanned schedule stuff that you got to go do, or the two employees not getting along, and being the mediator and be the babysitter. And anytime you do anything long term enough that it, like, you turn your passion into your business and into your career, I find over time it too becomes work. Like, and I'm not trying to paint it in a negative way. It's still wicked in so many ways, but like, trust me, there are so many days where I don't want to write content at 9 p.m. at night after my son goes to bed. Like,
yeah.
like, it's awesome that, like, because it's building my business. But come on, like who want like sometimes I just want to go chill and watch Netflix. Like,
Yeah.
but if I did that every night, if I chilled every night and watched Netflix, nothing would ever get done and my business would not
Mm.
get built.
Mm.
And and then usually when I get started, I feel better too. Sometimes it's just like that first step to kind of do it. Like, so if
Mm.
you're getting rejected after interviews, like take my advice to you is be miserable for a little bit. Take the hit.
Mm.
Embrace it. Live in it. You have every right to feel like crap. You truly
Mm.
do. It sucks to be rejected. Rejection sucks. It's one of the worst feelings you can have. So give yourself a time limit. So some people, everyone's different. I would say if it's going past a day, it's you gotta stump that crap out.
Mm.
But give yourself a day. Just
Yeah.
be like, I'm just gonna watch crappy movies and I'm gonna like eat ice cream or whatever your thing is, and I'm gonna just feel crap
Mm.
for 24 hours or 10
Mm.
hours for the rest of the night. But tomorrow I'm gonna wake up differently. Tomorrow I'm gonna start again, because the job process, you should be treating it like a job. You should be doing certain things consistently, like 8 to 10 a.m. in the morning you look for new jobs, 10 to noon you apply for new jobs, or the
Mm.
afternoon you write new cover letters. Like you got to have a schedule and you got to stick
Mm.
to it. But embrace the down. Like everyone's like, well,
Mm.
enjoy the moment, enjoy it, like the happiness. But
Mm.
what feeds happy moments is the sad moments. So
Mm.
when you do get that job, you finally get that job offer,
Mm.
it's going to taste a lot better when you've gone through a bit of rejection to get it than you do if
Mm.
you don't even realize what rejection feels like. I know
Mm.
it's like, oh, everybody doesn't want to go through rejection, but that's not how
Yeah.
life works. Everybody gets told no at some point, right? So
Mm.
you gotta kind of, it feeds it. So
Yeah.
just think about how sweet it's going to be when you do get that job
Mm.
and that you stuck with it, and how proud you can be of yourself, because it takes
Mm.
courage
Mm.
to kind of go into the unknown.
Yeah.
One of the podcasters that I listened to, Adam Bosner, wrote a post the other day about walking, just waking up every Monday morning to the dread of looking for work. He loved Friday afternoon because he got a break, but when his wife went to work and he didn't, there was this like dread, because and then his friends complaining about, oh, it's Monday, I got to go to work, actually kind of hit him really hard, because
Mm.
someone else's problem is someone else's savior. And
Yeah.
it really kind of made me look like that, because I've definitely been that person
Mm.
who's like, oh, I don't want to go to work on Monday. You know what I mean? Like I've definitely been that person saying that at times, and I just think I'm like, oh yeah, that is actually a horribly insensitive thing to say to people who are looking for
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah.
it's, you're not being it in it like intentionally mean or anything. And of course, he
Mm.
didn't take it that way in his post, but it was a really good perspective post that So if you're listening to this and you have friends that are struggling, look for work,
Mm.
just give them a pat on the back, because
Mm.
not knowing where your paycheck's coming from and not knowing the future and uncertainty, there's a very few people in the world that can really feel comfortable in uncertainty. And
Mm.
when you have a tiny bit of certainty compared to their complete uncertainty, sometimes it's just a refreshing thing to just ask people if they're okay and just check in with them. Because like when I remember when COVID first hit in March and no one knew anything of what was going to happen, like, and I'm
Mm.
just a pretty level headed person, I was like, my anxiety was through the roof. So
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine if, people had just lost their job, and then with COVID, you don't even know if you can find another job. Like everyone knows a
Yeah.
little bit more now with the whole situation that
Mm.
work is continuing. And some industries are actually doing really well. So
Mm.
I think, but that uncertainty is a tough thing to swallow. So be a little easier on yourself sometimes. Like don't be so hard on yourself. If
Yeah.
something you tried and you didn't work out, reflect on it, learn from it. You're allowed to be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say all feelings want to be felt, and if you bury them, if you ignore them, they're going to flare up in other things. You end up sort of having an argument with your friends or your spouse or your family members. So just allow yourself to feel it. It's not going to feel comfortable, but just sit with it, breathe through it, and like you said, the next day is a brand new day. Just keep on going. I think that's really powerful advice. Sabrina, it's been absolutely awesome having you on. So much value has been given on this podcast, so thank you so much. For those people that want to reach out to you, find out more about you, where should they go?
My hub's my website, so worklessons101.com. You can add me on LinkedIn, which is under Sabrina Woodworth, and my other big social media account is my Instagram account, and that my handle is at worklessons101.com. Or sorry, my handle is just worklessons101. And my book can be found on Amazon, It's sold in any region in Amazon. So just go to your country's region, and that's Work Lessons 101, what they don't teach you in school.
Amazing. I highly recommend anyone who's, well, wants a career change out of work right now to go and look Sabrina up, buy that book because incredible value is going to be given, I'm sure. Sabrina, thank you so much. And I hope everyone who has listened to this today has had a lot of value. It's been absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for your time again.
So, did you want to